Team 23 of 52 teams of 8 competitive rival wisdoms that helped make humanity wiser and kinder with antique quotes that have passed the test of time to encourage, educate, and entertain generations for centuries. Team quote 23.1. Carry on any enterprise as if all future success depends on it. Cardinal Richelieu 1585 to 1642. This quote from Cardinal Richelieu, the powerful French statesman and architect of absolute monarchy in France, reflects his understanding of how dedication and intensity shape outcomes. Coming from someone who transformed France's political landscape through careful, determined action, these words carry particular weight. What makes this advice compelling is that it's not just about working hard. It's about approaching each task with the gravity and focus that comes from believing it could determine everything that follows. Richelieu understood that treating each undertaking as crucial tends to produce better results than viewing any task as trivial or inconsequential. As First Minister of France under Louis XIII, Richelieu would have seen how seemingly minor decisions or actions could have far-reaching consequences. His approach to governance demonstrated this principle. He treated each policy, diplomatic move, or internal reform as if it were essential to France's future. The advice seems paradoxical at first. We know logically that not every task is equally important, yet by treating each one as if it were crucial, we often achieve better results across the board. Have you found this approach, giving full attention and effort to each task, to be effective in your own experiences? Team quote 23.2. Happiness is a virtue, not its reward. Baruch Spinoza 1632 to 1677. This is a fascinating perspective from Spinoza, the Dutch philosopher who challenged many conventional ideas about happiness and ethics. What makes this quote particularly intriguing is how it inverts the common view that happiness is something we earn or achieve as a result of virtuous living. Spinoza is suggesting something more radical, that happiness itself is a way of being, a practice, rather than a prize to be won. This aligns with his broader philosophical view that happiness isn't just a feeling or an outcome, but an active state of understanding and engagement with life. For Spinoza, who was excommunicated from his Jewish community for his unconventional views, this wasn't just abstract philosophy. He lived this principle, finding contentment in intellectual pursuit and lens-grinding work despite facing significant personal challenges and isolation. The idea that happiness is something we practice rather than earn has profound implications. It suggests we don't need to wait for certain conditions to be met before we can be happy. Rather, approaching life with joy and understanding is itself part of living virtuously. What do you think about this perspective? Do you see happiness more as a practice to cultivate or as a reward for right living? Team quote 23.3. I am a part of all that I have seen. Alfred Lord Tennyson 1809 to 1892. This is a beautifully reflective line from Tennyson's Ulysses, where he gives voice to the aging hero contemplating how his experiences have shaped him. What makes it particularly powerful is its recognition that we don't just observe life. We are transformed by what we witness and experience. Coming from Tennyson, who was Britain's poet laureate and a keen observer of both nature and human nature, this insight seems to work on multiple levels. It suggests that our experiences don't just pass through us like light through a window, but rather become integrated into who we are, like food becoming part of our body. The line captures something profound about human consciousness and identity, that we are in a very real sense built from our accumulated experiences, observations, and encounters. Every sight, every interaction, every moment of wonder or pain becomes woven into the fabric of who we are. This idea feels especially relevant in our media-rich age, where we're constantly exposed to images, stories, and experiences from around the world. It raises interesting questions about how all that we're exposed to both directly and through various media becomes part of our psychological makeup. What aspects of this idea resonate most with your own experience? Are there particular experiences or sites that you feel have become especially integral to who you are? Team quote 23.4. Compassion is the basis of morality. Arthur Schopenhauer 1788–1860. This is a cornerstone insight from Schopenhauer, who departed from the more rationalistic ethical theories of his time to place emotion, specifically compassion, at the heart of moral behavior. What makes this particularly striking is that Schopenhauer, often characterized as a pessimist, identified empathy for others' suffering as the foundation of ethical conduct. The quote challenges the idea that morality stems primarily from reason, religious doctrine, or social contracts. Instead, Schopenhauer suggests that our ability to feel and understand others' pain and joy, to truly share in their experience, is what drives genuine moral behavior. It's interesting that modern neuroscience and psychology have largely supported this view. Research on moral development and decision-making often shows that emotional responses, particularly empathy, play a crucial role in ethical behavior. We now know that people with impaired emotional processing often struggle with moral judgments, despite intact reasoning abilities. What's particularly powerful about this perspective is that it suggests morality isn't just about following rules or calculating outcomes. It's about developing our capacity to understand and feel for others. Have you found that your own moral decisions are more influenced by compassionate understanding or by rational principles? Team quote 23.5. Life is only understood backwards, but must be lived forwards. Kierkegaard 1813–1855. This is one of Kierkegaard's most penetrating observations, capturing a fundamental paradox of human existence. As a philosopher who grappled deeply with questions of choice, faith, and meaning, he recognized this peculiar challenge we all face. We can only make sense of our experiences in retrospect, yet we must make decisions in the present without knowing their full implications. The beauty of this insight is how it acknowledges both the limitations and the courage inherent in human life. We're constantly moving forward, making choices without complete understanding, yet it's only by looking back that patterns emerge and meaning becomes clear. What makes this especially poignant is that Kierkegaard himself lived this truth. His decision to break off his engagement to Regine Olsen, a choice that haunted him, could only be fully understood in hindsight, though he had to make it moving forward. This idea feels particularly relevant in moments of significant decision-making or life changes. We often wish we could understand the full implications of our choices before making them, but life demands that we act with incomplete knowledge. I'm curious, have you found this tension between forward action and backward understanding particularly meaningful in your own life experiences? Team quote 23.6. He who sells what isn't his in must buy it back or go to prison. Daniel Drew 1797–1879. This is a delightfully pithy warning from Daniel Drew, the Wall Street speculator and steamboat operator, about the risks of short-selling stocks. The homespun, folksy style of the rhyme belies its serious message about financial speculation. What makes this particularly interesting is that Drew himself was notorious for manipulating stocks and engaging in exactly these risky practices. He was known for watering stocks, secretly issuing additional shares, and other dubious Wall Street schemes. In fact, he ended up losing his fortune later in life, perhaps proving his own warning correct. The quote uses simple language to explain a complex financial concept. When you short sell, selling borrowed shares, you're obligated to return those shares eventually. If the price goes up instead of down as you hoped, you'll have to buy them back at a higher price, or face serious consequences. There's a certain irony in Drew, who was known as the speculator king, and often engaged in market manipulation, offering this warning about financial risk. It's a bit like a professional gambler warning about the dangers of betting. Have you found that sometimes the best advice comes from those who learned their lessons the hard way? Team quote 23.7. Worry is the interest paid by those who borrow trouble. George Washington, 1732–1799. This is a characteristically wise observation from Washington, using financial metaphor to illuminate a psychological truth. What makes it particularly clever is how it frames worry as a self-imposed tax we pay on problems we haven't even encountered yet. The metaphor is especially apt. Just as interest is the cost of borrowing money, Washington suggests that anxiety is the cost we pay when we borrow tomorrow's troubles to fret about today. And like interest, worry compounds. The more we borrow from our future concerns, the more we pay in present distress. Coming from Washington, who faced enormous real-world challenges as both general and president, this perspective carries special weight. He understood the difference between productive preparation and unproductive worry, having navigated everything from military campaigns to the creation of a new nation. What's particularly striking is how he captures the futility of worry. We're paying a real cost, peace of mind, for troubles that we may never actually have to face. Much like taking out a loan for something you might never need to buy. Have you noticed this pattern in your own experience? How worry makes us pay a price today for tomorrow's potential problems. Team quote 23.8. Those who do not move, do not notice their chains. Rosa Luxemburg 1871–1919. This is a profound observation from Rosa Luxemburg, the Marxist philosopher and revolutionary. As someone who dedicated her life to fighting for workers' rights and social justice, ultimately being murdered for her beliefs, she understood deeply how oppression can become normalized until someone tries to break free from it. The metaphor is powerful in its simplicity. Chains only become apparent when you try to move. It suggests that people often don't recognize the limitations placed on their freedom until they attempt to exercise it. Whether those chains are social, economic, political, or psychological, they may remain invisible to those who accept them as normal. What makes this insight particularly striking is how it applies across different contexts. It could describe everything from societal oppression to self-imposed limitations. Just as a person might not notice a physical constraint until they try to move, we might not recognize our mental or social constraints until we try to think or act differently. Luxemburg's observation also implies that movement, whether physical, intellectual, or social, is essential for understanding our true situation. Have you found that awareness of limitations often comes only when you try to push beyond them? And if you'd like to help raise school test scores and self-confidence, you can give your kids free, easy, extra advantage math, spelling, and reading workbooks you can download for free at stop2think.com or buy at educationstopshate.com. Free easy math wisdom workbooks with octo-repetition to grow math self-confidence. You'll get plenty of repetitive practice of age ranges and averages of our 52 teams of 8 quote authors. Free easy alpha cipher-coded puzzles teach letters, numbers, and phrases using antique wisdoms that encourage and educate. Can you decode this cipher quote of encouragement using either our learning to spell or just for fun instructions? And since time is money, practice reading faster with 52 teams of antique rival wisdoms that have passed the test of time to encourage, educate, and entertain generations for centuries. We offer printed versions and timed videos with background music. Sign up for free weekly emails of 52 teams of antique rival wisdom workbooks with easy math, spelling, and reading practice. And if you'd like to get paid for sharing our wearable wisdoms, keep this in mind. Everyone I know wears a shirt, and most of us change them daily. So change your shirt and change the world. Social equality teas are blatantly subliminal antique positive wisdoms repetitively shared without saying a word. This applies to all our wearable shareable wisdoms, like pretty witty baby onesies and baby teas that you and others will see and read multiple times a day. The same is true with pretty witty kids, but they'll also share these wisdoms with anyone that can read at daycare or school. Youthful truths let your kids gain confidence sharing antique wisdoms with their friends. Imagine them sharing words of wisdom with classmates and teachers. I think, therefore I think teas I wear is a super easy way to share words of wisdom that have passed the test of time. Our social equality teas help make us all wiser and kinder, with blatantly subliminal messages, promoting a more fair and equal opportunity society for all. And don't forget our giftwisdoms.com for birthdays and holidays that makes it easy to share the wisdom with clothing, coffee mugs, and magnets. So do the future a favor by encouraging, educating, and entertaining with words of wisdom that have passed the test of time to make us all wiser and kinder. With wearable wisdoms to fit babies, kids, and adults, you can clothe a whole family, city, or state. Join the 52 of 8 today at 52of8.com.